Hello and welcome to Surprise We Both Love Movies. This week we'll be reviewing Let Him Go, starring Kevin Costner and Diane Lane.
Don't start what you can't finish.
All right, so this movie is about, first of all, it takes place in the early 1960s. And it's about a family who they seem to be like I think they're living together. They didn't make it quite clear in the movie, but there's a mother and a father, and it looks like their son and his wife are also living with them, and they have a child. Their son dies tragically one morning on their farm. And then it kind of jumps forward 3 years, and the son's wife has remarried into a family that ends up being extremely abusive. And so this movie is basically his family going in to rescue the mom and their grandson. That's the basic plot of this particular film.
Yeah. And it was really, whenever you hear like you're going to see a Kevin Costner or a Diane Lane movie, you know that you're going to get, generally speaking, a quality picture. They don't do a lot of trash. Everything that they do is very deliberate and usually of high quality. And this, I didn't feel was an exception. This movie starts out as very quaint, very intimate. It's based off of a novel, so if that gives you a little insight as to what kind of movie this is going to be, novels that are translated to films oftentimes they have a slower pace. They're more deliberate. They're well-crafted characters because they've already been in print, so they just kind of have to be turned into that character on film, and you see that in this movie. Kevin Costner kind of plays his kind of grisly Western cowboy-esque Kevin Costner character. Diane Lane, she's got her character has a little bit of spunk and a little bit of fire underneath her, and wears the pants in a way in the relationship that you see between her and Kevin Costner's character, and they're trying to get their grandson back.
This movie for me was a sometimes what I like to call a thick film,
okay,
or a heavy film, meaning you're not going to walk out being uplifted in any way. This movie does deal with tragedy from the opening all the way until the end. There's not a whole lot of bright spots in this movie. It is very much a dark film. Not to say that there isn't hope in the movie. You go through a lot of different emotions during the film.
Right.
And this movie it's never boring.
Oh, I disagree. It was never boring.
Oh, I never got bored once during the film.
Oh, what about literally the whole first 30 minutes of the movie where you're just kind of getting to know the characters and
right
what was going on, and they live in this small quaint little town, and it's a slow moving pace because it's a kind of a country rural type of movie. Like for the first 35 minutes, I was like toothpicks in the eyelids, man, because it was moving so slow. It was like watching
that bad, huh?
Syrup drip down a tree because it took its time.
No.
Now, once you get past that point, I would 100% agree with you. But it takes about 35 minutes to really get rolling into the really good meat and potatoes of the story.
Well, and that's any story. I mean, you always build up to the end. They were character building in this film, and I thought they did a really good job. You had to find out the dynamic between the husband and the wife, which was a very interesting dynamic. He was a lot more subdued. You find out a little bit about his history as you go throughout the movie, which makes it even a little more intriguing. I think going to see this a second time, you're going to see some things you didn't see the first time, knowing what his history was and how he behaved. Now, I never got bored. I was entertained from the beginning till the end. Would I call this an incredible film? No. And I saw some reviews that gave this perfect 10 out of 10.
Whoa.
People were giving it 5 stars. A lot of reviews are saying this is probably the best film that got released this year. And I would not agree with that. But what I really liked about this movie, there isn't a whole lot I didn't like. I wouldn't pinpoint anything where I said that was terrible. What I really did like was when they had these intense moments.
The Wee Boys.
The wee boys did it, right? So yeah, even the name sounds kind of creepy, right? You'll find out this family has got some serious. They have serious issues, right?
Right.
But there are tense moments all throughout this movie. I mean, the sequence where they find out that her and their grandson is being abused was a very quiet, intimate moment.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you knew it was coming, there wasn't a whole lot of music. There wasn't a whole lot of, you were there to experience it the way the mom would experience it. And I appreciated that. They gave it an intimate feel.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene where the wee boys corner them in their hotel room, and it's pretty dang intense.
Yeah, that was
And
intense. Woo!
it gives you a very creepy feeling. And the tenseness of these scenes is really well done. It's really well crafted.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't put it on the level of genius or something we haven't seen before.
No.
This movie is good. Would I ever watch it again? No. Would I buy it? No, I wouldn't. This kind of reminds me of that movie, The Devil. Was it The Devil You Know?
The Devil All the Time?
The Devil All the Time. This reminds me of the same feeling I got when I watched The Devil All the Time.
That's fair.
I would never watch it again.
Right.
They're good movies in their own right. I would watch this over that one.
Yeah, you would.
But
I wouldn't. I'm the other way.
there's nothing that would draw me back to watch this again other than to know a little bit about the husband's backstory. Outside of that, there isn't a whole lot you're going to gain on a second or a third viewing on this.
Mm-hmm.
So what didn't, other than the slowness, was there anything else you didn't like? Like, what did you like?
It felt like it was, all right, no matter what, you got great actors, so the acting was great. The score was subtle. There was a couple moments there where I felt like I was watching one of the Superman movies because, as you know, Kevin Costner and Diane Lane played his
I thought it was a sequel to The Man of Steel.
Yeah. And there's a couple scenes where it's almost like the camera movements and the music almost match some of those scenes where you're like, this could be in that movie. Like they could swap that into this movie and swap that into that movie. There's a couple moments there like that. But it felt very segmented. Like I said, the first part of the movie, there's this build up to there's this tension, slow, crock pot cooking tension at the beginning of the movie. And then you kind of reach this finality, where you're going to figure out this whole part of the first part of the movie where this is what you think it is. And then it transitions to the latter 2/3 of the movie where you get all of this intense emotion, this suspense, this great acting by every person in the cast where you literally feel like you're transported to that room where they're in that small town.
Yes.
And it is just very visceral at that point.
It is.
So to me, it was a movie of the first third of it, and you think that you're going to find out, everything's going to be answered. And then you find out, no, not everything's answered. And it's a really just great after that 2/3 mark. I really thought it was very good after that.
Overall, the film was to me, it was a very even film throughout, and it did have those incredible tension building moments. So here's my score on this. As a movie, just something to casually go see.
Yeah.
Probably a 7.
Okay.
As a film where you could garner a little bit more after the first watch, it's got some watchability again. Mm-hmm. I'd give it an 8. I thought it was more. It's definitely not a happy-go-lucky film. It's not something you're going to walk out of the theater feeling good or like you want to talk about this movie with everybody. It's not that type of movie.
As a casual viewer, somebody that just wants to go watch a movie to escape, you're probably, you might not even get past that third. I think if you're looking for something that's a little bit more, that moves a little quicker, you're going to have a hard time. You might have a hard time getting past the exposition. But if you do, it's worth it. So for me, as a movie score, and I debated this, I was like, "Ooh, what is it going to be? Is it going to be a 6 or a 7?" I had to give it a 6.
Okay.
It's as a movie. As a film, I was between a 7 and an 8, and I went with a 7. So we're very aligned on what what this movie is, and I say movie, but really it's a film.
And you're right. We're both very, you just liked it a little bit less than I did.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable, and I think it was worth going to see, but it's not something I would own or watch again. Now, there are a couple of movies that had kind of a similar feel to them that I think pulled off the whole story and the likability of the movie a little bit better. And if
Mhm.
people haven't seen these films, I would highly recommend them. One of them is Wind River,
Haven't seen it.
which is amazing. And the other one would be Hell or High Water.
Oh yeah, that was great.
So that's a great movie. And I get a very similar feel watching those films, but I think those films are a lot more interesting. And I
Okay.
think you'll walk away wanting to talk about them more than this movie. This was kind of a one and done thing where I think those other films you'd want to revisit them again.
Right. And it's really like it's got that pacing of a No Country for Old Men is how this movie is
Yes.
paced. It's not as interesting and suspenseful right out of the gates as that movie, but I think by the time the movie's over, you feel like you had a little taste of that. So that's our review of Let Him Go. Thank you guys for watching us. Those of you who follow us on YouTube and on Facebook, thank you. And please feel free to listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Until next time, I'm Lamont,
I'm Aaron.
and we'll see you guys next time.